I did do the chapter, what is it, 7 other day, or 8, 7 for my house. So I do have to upload that one. I have not uploaded chapter 7, but I'll try to do that this afternoon or tonight. If somebody needs to go back and look at chapter 7, but I will work with you on that. So just bear with me on that. If somebody emails me, reminds me, that'd be great if I don't have it up by reasonable time tonight. I'm trying to record these for the fall too, because things are getting crazy at Northwest. I don't know if y'all saw this, but we reshuffled the entire school on Thursday night, and all of Northwest is going hybrid in the fall. And we're shifting to a Monday, Wednesday, 50-minute class, and Tuesday, Thursday, 50-minute class, and no classes on Friday, except maybe we may have tests on Friday and some labs on Friday. And so me and my 22 instructors got to figure out how we're going to do some of this, because I don't think we can do organic chemistry on hybrid. Hybrid means part online, part in, kind of like what I'm doing with the homework. So, like y'all's mastering homework is online homework. So the new rule is going to be like 45% of the whole course is online, mastering homework or stuff like that. And then 55% of it is in class talking. So there's no way I can cover all the material that we're doing in here in that. So what I'm going to do is actually just pull these up and have them watch chapter 8 before we have class, and then just kind of flip the class and then answer questions during lecture. So I'm a little worried about that. So if I got a lot in my mind going on, so if I get off shopping today, I'm probably thinking about how we're going to do that. But anyway, just give y'all an update for next year. Things are changing in Northwest, big time. Okay, big time. So we shall go see how that goes. Can y'all see that? Okay. Y'all see chapter 8? Okay. Now the thing about this chapter that bothers me, guys, and by the way, I've really enjoyed y'all. Thank y'all so much for taking the class this summer. Y'all have been an excellent group. Let's finish strong. Okay, we got 2 weeks left, and this week is 2 lecture tests, today and Friday, and then we have the final next Friday. So we'll start the nervous system on next Monday. So we'll have the week of nervous system, and then our lab final is next Wednesday, I believe, right? So we'll do it next Wednesday, right? And then the final and lecture on Thursday. Okay, so we rolling, man. And y'all hang with me. We stayed on task. We're right on schedule. Okay, and I feel like we're doing exactly what I told y'all we'd do. I told you it's pretty wild, pretty fast. Chapter 8, articulations, the joints. Okay, here's the thing that blows my mind on this one, is there's a whole bunch of terms I ain't never heard in my life. Okay, most of y'all are probably going to hear a bunch of terms today that you have never heard in your life. I had never heard them until I took this class. Even didn't cover in measured biology. We didn't cover them in any of the other biology classes I had before. So this is kind of an A&P exclusive for me. Okay, and I've never used them since then, except on the day we cover this material. Okay, so this is not words that you woke up this morning and Mama asked you how your gum hostess was today. You're not going to ever hear Mother say that unless you're Megan. Her mother might ask her, because she teaches this too, so she could ask her how her gum hostess is today, right? And that's your teeth sockets, just FYI. Okay, so anyway, so bear with me. Don't freak out. Don't get upset. But it is some new words. Make some excellent terms, right? And multiple choice questions. Another thing, just before we get kicking off here, that somebody else asked me this, and I actually appreciate William actually sent me a couple of emails this weekend. I think we had a good conversation a couple of times. There's a couple of others of y'all have sent me some emails. But the study area in mastering is excellent review for y'all, right? I think that's, some of y'all may have seen that. Some of y'all may not have seen that. And I get the test banks from them. I don't read all of the mastering. I mean, I've looked through it once, but I can't quote it. And every time you take it, it's different. So if you call me and say chapter 3 or question 3, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. So question 3 may be different for everybody. But several people have said that by going doing the study area, like for chapter 8, they seem to be seeing some questions that look very similar to the questions on the test, but they're not the exact same thing. So that might help some of y'all on the formatting of the test questions, right? The way they're written. Because like I told y'all, the 50 multiple choice, most of those are from the test bank. I don't write those. And we modified those because the test banks are out. So we've actually modified those ourselves so that you can't just Google the answer real quick if you had your phone out. But we don't do online tests anyway in here on this month. I think those are helpful. Okay, especially like when we get into muscle contraction here in the next week, or later on this week, excuse me. Then those animations that I'm going to show y'all in here are in there. Y'all can watch them over and over again. So I'm a real big believer in the animation. So, but remember the mastering area homework. Go to assignments. It has all the dates in there. But what I'm talking about is the study area. where every once in a while somebody thinks that's the homework, right? I think one of y'all may have had that problem, and I'm working with you on that. But looking there, those are good. I'm just trying. Another thing, and I really appreciate, I saw some of y'all, I had a moment, I almost teared up last week. I saw a group of students studying up here in the sidewall, by the Coke machine about an hour or two after lab, because I was still up here working. And if you ain't got in a study group, that's on you, man. I got through college my first semester. I looked around the room, found the smartest person in the room. I ended up being best man at his wedding. Okay. Not a bad move to get into a study group. And everybody, and if you like me, you ain't the smartest one, go get the donuts. Bring the donuts, man. Bring some food and feed everybody. The best way to learn something is to try to teach it to somebody. And I'm totally convinced in that. So if y'all ever need a room up here, I will unlock the rooms we've been testing in, and I'll turn that board on, and William, y'all can go crazy on it, man. Y'all can go in there and start teaching each other. I don't have a problem with that. I'm going to be here, especially Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm going to be here to 5, 6, 7 o'clock every night, 5 or 6 anyway. So if y'all need a room, let me know. Okay. All right. We're going for it. Hold on. Who we got here? Is that our waxing crew? Is that Bud? That must be McLean lady. I just got a message from them. Okay. All right. So articulation. Let's dive into it. And now it doesn't want to work. I love this when it does this. All right, let me see. One of my keys now. There we go. Okay, so our joints then are all the parts of the body where bones come together. Okay, so when you connect the two bones together, you form a joint. Okay, and notice that it can have 3 functions, right? It enables the body part to move. It's going to provide stability to that body part. If anybody here has ever had joint damage, you know what I'm talking about when you lose stability. Most people, when they lose an ACL or one of the ligaments in the knee, they can swing their leg one way, but the other way won't work. It's like loosey-goosey, but they can do it this way. So in other words, you lose one of the angles of movement. So stability is a big one. And then it allows long bones to lengthen in those epiphyseal plates, right? So remember that epiphyseal plate is a joint where the cartilage and the bone connect together. And as that cartilage divides, that's how we get our bones to get longer. That's how we got taller. Okay. Now, here's where I'm getting at. Words you may not have ever used before. Okay. Now we can classify them, and your book is going to actually classify them according to the material that makes that joint up. But as we look at it that way, we'll also see that there are another way to label them is based on how much movement that joint has. So we will describe these joints by their type of motion that they allow. Okay. So if you see the word sin arthrosis, so you want to say it together? Sin arthrosis. Okay. Maybe we should do some repeat the words, right? Those are joints that have no movement at all in them. So what is the joint that off the top of your mind that doesn't have any movement at all? Anybody?
A suture.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Thank you. The skull. The skull, if they move, you got damage to your head, right? You're in trouble, right? So very good. And so there's some other ones, that we'll see that have no movement. Okay. Then antharthrosis has slight movement. What is a joint that has a slight movement in your body that you can think of? There are no bad answers, just bad teachers, remember.
Is interosseous membrane one?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think talking about I think about the ends of the tibia fibula down the leg. Those two bones are pretty tight down there, but as you pivot and twist your legs, they move a little bit. Okay, that's the one that comes to my mind. And then the most common joint that makes up 95% of the joints in the body are diarthrosis, which have free moving. Okay, and these would be all of our fingers and elbows, shoulders, hips, knees, ear, not the ear. Okay, but thumb, big toes, all of our movement like that. Okay, and so that's going to be our biggest group. Okay. Can y'all feel the excitement already in this chapter, right? Okay, a lot of excitement in this chapter. I'm saying I have trouble with English, so these words really drove me crazy over the years. Okay, we're going to break them down though. When we'll use these 3 as descriptors. Okay, we'll use these words as we describe these groups. Okay, but your book is going to break them down into the material that forms the joint itself. In other words, what tissue is holding the bones together or is connected between the two bones. Okay. Our first group then is going to be what's called a fibrous joint, where you have dense, regular connective tissue, and really, real tight. Where it grabs them together. Okay, and most of these are those sutures and stuff that are synarthrosis, and maybe a few amphiarthrosis, meaning no movement or just a little bit of movement. Okay. Then we're going to have the cartilaginous joints, where the cartilage without a joint space is going to be connected to bones, and that is the epiphyseal plate and some of these other ones like that where you don't have a space in between. But we're going to spend most of our time this morning looking at synovial joints, which are those that have a layer of hyaline cartilage, or are also called articulating cartilage, on the ends of the surface of the bones, so that is what rubs together. Classic knee, hip, shoulder, finger joints and stuff. But we'll be mainly looking at shoulders and the hips and knees today on that. So synovial joints are the ones that are most unstable, right? But they also give you the most movement. The most stable is the fibrous joints, but they give you the least amount of movement, right? So that we'll see, there's a table coming up. There's a correlation between that, and we'll see that in a minute. Okay, everybody having fun yet? All right, here we go. So here we go. We're going to do the fibrous and collagenous first, okay? And once again, I see some terms here that would make excellent multiple choice. And as some of y'all have demonstrated in your test, y'all just love terms, man. Old school terms, man, okay? Some of y'all are excelling on that. Some of y'all are not doing it very well. And to me, that's the best test. There's no trickery in that. You can't argue about how the question was written, right? You either know it or you don't, right? And so I kind of like terms. All right, here we go. So fibrous joints then are going to be those that have dense connective tissue in between them. Most of them lend to mainly stabilize it. And there are three flavors of this. One of them you already know, sutures, gymphosis that I talked about, Megan's gymphosis earlier, and syndesmosis. So we have three fibrous joints: suture, gymphosis, and syndesmosis. All right, let's do suture first. This is a really easy one. An immovable joint between the edges of the bones, mainly in the cranium. Your fully fused sutures are very stable, well suited for protecting the brain, and then you get that thin layer of compact bone there, right? As we already saw. So suture is an easy one, right? Now, we do remember it is connective tissue in the baby with the fontanelle, right? But as you get a little older, it completely solidifies. Gymphosis is the joint of a tooth. Okay, check it out. Immovable joint between, immovable in the sense unless you pull the tooth, right? Okay, between each tooth and the bony socket in the jaw, there is a periodontal ligament, which is a really strong, we know ligaments connect what? Bone to bone, right? And that is powerful ligament in there that holds the tooth in that socket. Okay, pretty cool, pretty fair, pretty easy one. And then syndesmosis is between the tibia fibula, ulna, and ulnar radius is another one. Bones are joined by this very tight interosseous membrane, right? Ligament type, dense, regular connective tissue. See it right there holding it together. And that would be the ulnar radius end and the wrist right here. But see, look, it moves a little bit, but not a lot, right? So that has an amphiarthrosis, partial movement. And then same thing at the end of the ulna, the tibia fibula down the lower leg. Okay, example of that. And here we go. You can see it here. You see it right here on the ulnar radius here. Okay, and then we had our socket and then the suture. So there's a nice little summary on those. Okay, nothing. Look, there's nothing in this chapter that's like mind-boggling, like protein synthesis, right? So it's just a lot of memorizing, right? And some of y'all, we all have our different skills. We had a couple people made their high score on that last test that had a lot of memorizing, which is good, right? I was better memorizer than deep concept. So we got to work on both our limitations. But as you'll see, everybody has their area that they're good at. Okay, let's go to cartilaginous joints. Okay, and these are going to be those that have some cartilage between the two bones. Okay, we have two of these that are collagenous joints. Now, what they mean by this is the synovial membranes are going to have some cartilage in them, but they have a lot more with it too. Okay, but these are just where you have nothing but cartilage touching bone. Okay, and these are called synchondrosis and symphysis. Okay, so synchondrosis and symphysis. Okay, all right. So the first group, synchondrosis, you have bones linked together by hyaline cartilage. And the classic example is the epiphyseal plate that we've already been talking about. So you have hyaline cartilage connected to the bone, and the cartilage are still dividing. As long as they're dividing, you can lengthen that bone. Okay. There's another one that's kind of wild. The first sternocostal and costochondral joints in the rib cage are also synchondrosis. We have a picture of that. So we're talking about the epiphyseal plates and a growing bone. And the first two cartilage right here and here on rib 1 and 2 that grab the manubrium and the body of the sternum. So the first two ribs, the cartilage here is that, I believe is what they're saying. First two between this first two. And it looks like they call in these other ones. So where the bone touches here, I guess she's saying, I'm sorry, maybe I read it wrong. There and on these, okay? So pretty wild. And so you don't notice there's nothing else there where the bone cartilage touch, okay? And then symphysis is where we see fiber cartilage. Remember we did fiber cartilage in lab a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of days. I say weeks because I've been teaching for years, but now I need to say days ago, right? And remember fiber cartilage and the intervertebral disc. And so here they are. So the intervertebral disc in between the vertebrae is a great example of symphysis. And also in the front of the hip bones, also called the coxa bones right here, in the front, in between there is a piece of fiber cartilage here called the pubic symphysis that allows that to open up and have a little cushion during childbirthing, okay? And you can actually have a friend of mine's daughter tore this sliding into second playing summer softball. And that was real bad heel. So a very long heel. So she tore this while playing sports. Okay. Now remember we talked about the dangers of epiphyseal plate fractures, right? And we can talk about that. It's pretty bad. You don't want to break them on that. May involve surgery and et cetera, and rehabilitation exercises, blah, blah, blah. All right. So is everybody okay with those? A lot of new terms there, right? Is everybody with me? So we like I said, don't have as much material today to cover, but we can go back over them real quick, right? Let's back up one more time from the home office and Omaha, right? So we talked about the different movements we could have, right? Synarthrosis, aphathrosис, and diarthrosis. And then we talked about the fibrous joints and the cartilaginous joints, and we're fixing to spend most of the morning talking about synovial joints. Fibrous were what? Three types: sutures, kyphosis, and syndesmosis. Okay, and then cartilaginous were the synchondrosis, epiphyseal plate, best example, and symphysis, right, where you have fiber cartilage in between the vertebrae or the coccyx bones at the pubic bone area, right here. These are the coccyx bone, as we saw in lab. We'll be looking at this week in lab. It's 3 bones fused together, and this bone right here is the pubis. Okay, so that pubis symphysis means it's between those 2 bones. All right, how's everybody feel so far? Y'all with me? I'm gonna tell you, first time I saw that, I had a nervous breakdown because, man, I ain't never heard these words before. Okay, and I'm not. These are pretty weird words, needless to say. Okay, now we're gonna start talking about synovial joints, and if you catch it here very early, this is a lot easier if y'all listen to me on this first part. Okay, all synovial joints are gonna have these elements I'm going to talk about in common. Okay, we're gonna have a joint cavity spaced between the articulating bones. There will be an articular capsule, double layer structure that in between the bones. Okay, and then there will be that, and then talk about that articulating capsule. We'll have an outer fibrous layer, inner synovial membrane, and then we're gonna have lubricants in here. We have synovial fluid that some books say is the slickest compound in the human body. This is like Mojo or whatever. It's some kind of grease element, but it's in between the bones. And if you lose that synovial fluid, then you have bone rubbing bone. So it is a liquid, very thick liquid that lubricates the joint. It also has nutrients in it to supply food to some of the joints, and it serves as a shock absorber, right? If you remember, football players used to have those helmets that had the little liquid pads in them, right? And they protect some of the shock, right? And I know there's cushions in there too, but some of the better ones have liquid in them, little bags of liquid to serve as shock absorbers. So this synovial fluid is very unique to synovial joints, and it lubricates. It's transportation fluid to feed the cells of the cartilage and allow for some shock absorber function. Okay, and then here's where it gets fun. It's going to be articulating cartilage, right? Always cartilage on the end of the bone. That liquid, that synovial fluid lubricates it. And notice that the articulating cartilage does not have blood vessels in it, so it's avascular, and it gets its nutrients from that synovial fluid mainly. Now, guys, if y'all want to get rich, figure out a way to get this cartilage to keep growing. We have a huge number of people in America that have osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. I have the osteoarthritis where I've wore the knee cartilage out of my bone, and it will not. They can't get it to regrow. If we can figure this out, that would be a multi-billion-dollar drug, because right now the answer is about a $30,000 or $80,000 knee replacement surgery. So think about how much money is spent every day. There are thousands of people getting knee and hip replacements every day because the cartilage just gets worn out and it won't grow back. And I was very shocked that when I started having this knee trouble 5 years ago that we haven't figured out how to fix this yet. Okay, so to me, it's just crazy that we're going to go throw the knee out and put a metal piece in there to take its place. I find it kind of a barbaric almost, but that is the best treatment we have today. Okay, and then a little bit more, and I'm kind of jumping right here. So one more time, let's back up. Okay, we're going to back up. You're going to have the synovial cavity. You're going to have the articular capsule. The articular capsule is going to have synovial fluid. We're going to have then we talk about what it does. We're going to have articulating cartilage, right? That's where the bones rub, plus liquid in there, the lubricant, and then wrap it all up in duct tape, ligaments, God's duct tape. So wrap it all up, and these ligaments and tendons, mainly ligaments. So it's like duct tape. And so one of the craziest things, and here, this is what all these synovial joints are going to look like this, really. This is simplified, the knee, but it's a good example. One more time, look. Articulating cartilage, see the arrow? The synovial membrane all the way around there seals it off. There is a joint cavity with synovial fluid in there to lubricate, and then wrap it in God's duct tape, fibrous outer layer, which we call ligaments. So when you tear a ligament, you tear part of that duct tape to pack it in. Matter of fact, a lot of times I think about the synovial fluid is peanuts. You ever like send something real fragile in the mail, right? You wrap it in peanuts and you get some of that wrapping paper and wrap it up, right? And then you what? Tape it all together. So to me, ligaments is God's duct tape when you send somebody like a glass in the mail or something fragile. Okay. And so every synovial joint, even in the fingers, the knee, the hip, they all have this same setup. And so to me, once you see it and kind of get a feel for it, to me, it makes a lot of sense once you see that. And so for me, I have got probably bad genetic bones from my parents, and I've wore this cartilage out. There's only 2 places where each knee touches the bone, and I have no cartilage on the outside here. It's gone on the right knee. So I'm looking at maybe having either a partial knee replacement or full right knee replacement. And basically, you just go till you can't stand it no more, then you go have the surgery. Okay. Because the longer you wait, the better you're going to get, the longer you're going to go without having a second one replaced. Pretty cool. Okay, and there we go. So stabilize and support. All these ligaments are going to stabilize that joint. Okay. So I'll read it to you. Synovial joints then allow more mobility, but are less stable than the other joints we talked about earlier because of this loosey-goosey ability, right? That we're going to have, and the bones are not even touching. I mean, there's no, you'd think God put a hinge in here, right? Or door hinge, right? We all seen door hinges, how stable they are, right? But there's no rod running through here between the bones. So the bones are just touching. It's all that ligament tendons that hold it all together, or that God's duct tape. So ligaments are going to be extremely important, like strands of dense, regular collagen connective tissue that link one bone to another and provide the strength and stabilize and reinforce the joint. Okay. Tendons connect bone to muscle, and they allow for movement. And so you can tear tendons also, right? And they can be very painful, but they are all about moving that bone. And they're also similar to ligaments. We saw when we had a test on histology, right? They look the same. I didn't even make you know the difference in them in lab, if y'all remember. Okay. Muscle tone, we'll talk about that later on, but that bone, your muscles, continuous level of muscle contraction that provides stability up to a joint. So even though you're sitting right now, some of your back muscles are always contracting so that you don't just spaz out and fall on the floor. Okay. So there's a whole lot of muscle contracting going on other than just when we're walking. We like to think of it like when we're walking, but we're always doing that. Okay. Now here's a couple of little side things, little bonuses that are seen in here in the joints. One of them here is really cool, called a bursa. How many of y'all heard of that? Y'all heard of bursitis, right? Y'all heard of that? Okay, you should have heard of that. Probably grandmama's had bursitis, right? Or granddaddy or mom and daddy. So bursitis then would be an inflammation of a bursa. A bursa is a fluid-filled sac in a joint. So Heather, that's the packing peanuts, really. That's your packing peanuts, right? So God puts these little bags of fluid in the joints to help stabilize the joint. And then they're under the duct tape, right? The ligaments and the ligaments then hold it all in place. I remember like in the 7th grade, twisting my knee trying to play football, and I was not very successful playing football. And my knee swelled up. Has anybody ever had the fluid drain off their knee? Anybody else? They stick a needle in there. That's a bursa that's been irritated. So they stick a big long needle in there and pull that out. Pretty graphic, pretty painful too. So that's one of the treatments. And there, of course, other drugs we can take. But a pretty common thing in sports is to have a bursa drain, right? Where they stick a needle in to the shoulder and pull that fluid out. Okay, so those are fluid-filled sacks that we will see as an accessory part of a joint. All right, another one is pretty cool. It's called a tendon sheath. And that's a long bursa surrounding a tendon to protect that tendon from getting torn or cut by the bone. Now think about that. When you see people rappelling off a mountain, we've all seen those movies, right? Where somebody's stuck on a mountain with the ropes and the rope is rubbing the rock and it's going to tear. You already see it start to bend to break and they're going to fall to their death 1,000 feet. Well, this is really a protection bag around this at the pivot points or at a real point of tension so that we won't tear our ligaments, our tendons. Actually, in this case, excuse me, it's a tendon sheath. So, oops, tendon, sorry. Let me show you one. Look at this. So look at this. Look right here. Here is the bicep brachii, which is the muscle that is going to allow you to do this movement right here. Look, to pick this arm up right here. We're looking right here on the shoulder. Well, God puts a tendon sheath over this so that so you won't tear that tendon on that bone, because these bones can have sharp edges. And one of the things I'll show y'all in lab is, if I can do this without looking too stupid, but right here on your knee, I can't figure out right here. Feel, you have a little bone right there on your knee, and sometimes that tendon will pull the bone off. And mine, I've got a great big knot right here, and so I was getting down on my knees to pick up something out of the floor of the day, and it felt like somebody stuck a knife right here. So I'm already putting a tension here. I've got that. I'm tearing a ligament, a tendon right here, where that muscle, probably the patella tendon. And so I may have to go in and have surgery to have that bone shaved down. So if you have a spike, a sharp edge of a bone, and I've had these big shins, and what I did is one of the times when I got in good shape, I was running too much. And so one of the signs of overexercise is you can pull that bone off of that shin. So who do you think hurts this? Baseball pitchers tear this right here, what we're looking at, right? So people throwing the balls and football quarterbacks and pitchers are going to have a lot of issues right here with maybe tearing this. So the sheath is just something that what protects that tendon, right? So that it won't be torn by the bone or put too much stress on it from maybe a sharp edge of this bone under, like right in here. And look here, bonus, here is a bursa. I think I said bursa in here, look. So here's a subacromial bursa up here. It's a packing bag of fluid, right? I actually had a boy one time show me his popped out. So he needed to have surgery because he could just move his shoulder and the big old water bag pops out right here on the shoulder. And I'm like, that's weird. That's going to be very weird swimming or whatever. So I told him, he'd been to the doctor and they need to repair that. But like many of us, he didn't have the money to do it right now. So he just kind of popped it back in when it popped out. Okay. Okay. So bursitis then is the inflammation of the bursa, most common in the shoulder, elbows, hip, and knees. Look at this. Pain both at rest and with motion. Joint may feel tender, swollen, and warm. Okay. Treatments is ice and compressions of the injured area, rest, and maybe some anti-inflammatory steroids, right, to reduce swelling. Untreated can be extremely, painful and may have to, cause lots of problems. Another one, let me just mention one more that they didn't put here, but we'll mention it. But I'll go ahead and throw it in here. It's going to come up later. But there is one more little thing that they didn't mention here that kind of goes along with this. And y'all have heard of this called the meniscus. A meniscus. A meniscus is a piece of cartilage in a joint, also an accessory piece of the joint. But in the knee specifically, we have bursa that are little shock absorbers, kind of like the plastic on the bottom of your running shoes, right? So that as you run, you get a little recoil, a little bouncy there, so you're not putting too much jar on the bones and joints. So we see a meniscus in the knee, which is a extra piece of cartilage in there to help hold all that weight as a shock absorber. Okay, and a lot of athletes have to have their bursas. They get fragments of cartilage in the knee. My first knee pain was some of that broken apart. It felt like somebody throwing BBs in your tennis shoes or some rocks in your shoes. And it literally felt like I was walking on rocks. And being hard-headed, as y'all probably figured out in 2 weeks, and my thinking I know everything, I made them do an MRI because I knew I had a ligament torn or something. I knew I had a torn ligament, okay, because it hurt so bad. And I actually saw the MRI myself, and there's nothing wrong with my ligaments and tendons. It's just all my cartilage is shot, and I've got pieces of cartilage in there like little pieces of rock in your shoes. And so when people have their knees scoped, like world-class athletes, they go in there with surgery just to clean up the mess, okay, and try to or smooth down that cartilage to buy them more time with that knee, okay, or that joint. Okay, that brings us to some super big terms here, arthritis. I know I've already been talking about this, guys, and I hate to harp on it, but it's a big one here. And if you're dealing with it, it is a big one of the most common disorders in America. So arthritis is an inflammation of one or more joints, resulting in pain and limitation of the joint movement. There are 3 major types. The most common is osteoarthritis, and that is when you literally wear out that joint. I think genetics plays a role in this. My mother has had double knee replacement before she got to my age, actually. And so I got her bad knees, okay, I'm pretty sure. So osteoarthritis is wear and tear to the joint, and it can be, obviously, as you get older, it's a big deal, and you have loss of mobility. Okay, and that is just overwearing a joint. And especially, and I've been making this joke for a while now. So when I was little, we didn't have all these cell phones. You guys got a cell phone when y'all was like 5 years old, right? Or 6. So I wonder what kind of joint your fingers are going to be when you get my age. They're going to be like, y'all going to be like completely disabled possibly, right? Because y'all been doing, and my thumbs are just too big for texting anyway. So, but think about that. Y'all going to be doing a whole lot of texting now, and have been until we get the voice text coming, which they got it now. Y'all may be looking at osteoarthritis in your finger joints. Y'all may have heard of carpal tunnel syndrome, right? That's another one that's caused by typewriting. Ladies that were, or men that have been like secretaries or typing all the time, coders, they get some tendons squeezing down on some of the tendons in the arm. It's very, very painful. Okay. The other one here, rheumatoid arthritis, is even to me more scary than osteoarthritis. This is when your immune system turns on you and eats the cartilage out of your joints. So this is an autoimmune disease. Now we haven't covered immunity yet, so I'm going easy here, right? But we'll be covering that with those of y'all take part 2. Miss Dickens will go into that in a lot of detail. But this is where your body's neutrophils, thinking monocytes, think about that, and specific immune system turns on your body, and you eat the cartilage out of your joints. One of my favorite students, maybe 10, 15 years ago, he came to me and needed some advice, and I helped him get into I advised him, he got in one of the, I think, radiology tech at Baptist or UT, and now he's a radiologist radiology tech up in the Memphis area, making $75,000, $100,000, really good success story. His mother ran our Northwest bookstore, not bookstore, but post office. And one day I went over and saw her just struggling to put a piece of mail in the little cubicles that we have. Of course, on the outside, we got the lock. On the inside, she just throws it in the little cave. And I looked at her hands, y'all, and it was the saddest thing I ever seen. They were just so swollen like this. I mean, they were just big old whelps on them. And I said, "Dear, what's wrong with you?" And she said, I've got rheumatoid arthritis. I've had it for 15 years. And I can't do my job right now. I'm trying to get disability. Trying to get, and I know a lot of people, I'm going to get into the social thing about people that abuse disability, but I do think there's things government does well. And one of them is we take care of our people that have real problems, right? Like that. But it took her like 3 or 4 years to get disability. And then she died of this about 3 years later. So it actually ended up killing her. Really broke my heart. I mean, one of the sweetest ladies you've ever met in your life. And I'm just glad I got to know her son and still friends with him. We still friends. We see each other. And like I said, I see him occasionally at the Grizzly games, actually, in places. But it can be deadly. But all of her joints were just completely being destroyed by her immune system. There are some drugs for this, but obviously we haven't cured this yet. And the other one y'all may be familiar with, some of y'all may have had a family member with this, with gout. Y'all heard of this before, gout? Gout is a uric acid crystals deposit in the joint. So it's like putting rocks in the joints. Very painful. And I'm maybe off here, but I think it's like 85% men. Isn't it weird? Women don't get this hardly at all. So here's something that's kind of weird. It seems to be a 85% more common in men than women. And y'all seen it. And I know, once again, y'all forgive me, I do too many TV references. But how many of y'all watch the commercials on TV for drugs for this? And it shows the guy carrying a big green big green beaker, or like a flask of this green liquid. You ever seen it? Okay, so they had it several years ago. It's like he's getting on a boat or a plane, or getting on the trolley or whatever, you know. But anyway, uric acid is kind of green, and it comes from the breakdown of nucleic acids in our body, and overeating protein can do it too. So this is stuff where you get these deposits, very, very painful. I have a young friend of mine that actually going to come see me tonight, that I was one of his mentors, and he's now living in California, married, and his wife, they're in town. But I went on and took him on one of my adventure trips where we go hiking, and he literally, his feet swelled up so big because he had gout, and he could not eat meat for a couple of days. Eating the meat can make it flare up, but also walking 10 miles can obviously make it flare up. So anyway, so arthritis is not just rheumatoid arthritis. It's probably the most famous one you probably see on the news because there's drugs for it. But osteoarthritis is extremely common, and that's the most common form of this. Okay. All right, now we're going to look at the synovial joints. And the next little part is not one of my favorites. I'm not going to put a lot of this on here, but we'll just kind of go through it as fast as we can. But it's going to go into a little bit of physics of how these synovial joints work. Okay. And so not going to be like a huge mega 10-point question, but maybe a term in here, but maybe not very little of it. So we're just going to roll through it. But see if you can catch on to this, because this is kind of hard for me to see this one. But bones in the synovial joints move in different planes or axes. Okay. Now, what I mean by that is, like, for example, look, my arm doing this is one axis, right? Doing this, now that ain't the elbow, that's the what? So the shoulder has multiple axes you can move on. The elbow got one. That's its only move. Okay, it doesn't do anything else. This is actually something else. So a non-axial joint, allows motion in one or more planes without moving around an axis. Then you can have a uniaxis, biaxis, and multi-axis. Okay, we'll look at some examples of this. The elbow, only one axis, right, is uniaxis. The elbow is one axis. Okay. All right. Metacarpals are biaxial. You can do this, but you can also make them flare out. So that would be a biaxial, the metacarpal phalange joint. Okay. Okay, hang on. I think somebody may be coming in here. Question, maybe not. All right. Then the shoulder is also another one. The third axis allows additional movement. So that one can have three things. All right. When the arm is swinging back and forth like while walking, jumping jacks, or throwing frisbees, a whole different movement. There we go. So that is three axes that shoulder can move in. Once again, I'm not going to put a lot on the test, but shoulder is extremely complicated. Extremely complicated. Okay. Okay. And now the next little part here is we're going to look at different types of movements. Okay. I believe that's what we're talking about. Gliding movements are when they have a sliding motion over the bone. An angular movement is when you increase or decrease an angle between two bones like this. That's an angular one there. Okay. Okay. And we can look at some of these. So here, gliding is just when the bones slide next to each other. So not a full angle movement, but just movement of bones slightly. Okay. And then we've got a couple of more weird terms here. And I did put a couple of these on. Y'all know I love terms, but I didn't go. I mean, there's a couple of these on the test. Flexion is when you decrease the angle between two bones. Okay. Here we go. Take a look. That's a flexion, right? The angle decreased. And extension is when the angle increases between the two bones. Okay, and we've all probably had a what? Hyperextension, right? If you ever threw your shoulder out, right? Or hyperextend. I think popping the fingers has a hyperextension because you're overextending them, and that's some of the air being released in the fingers joints. Okay, and here's our workout lady showing us some of these flexions, extensions, and hyperextension, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, here's another couple. Abduction is the motion of body, moving the motion of a body part put away from the midline. So that's raising your arms. And abduction is bringing your arms down. And we can see our lady doing it here. Abduction is pushing them up. And then adduction is bringing them back down. Okay. Circumduction is moving a body part in a circle. I think that's the next one. Rotation is moving a body part in a rotational movement, like rotating your head. You rotate your feet. Okay, some special movements, which are kind of weird to me. Okay, opposition allows thumbs to move across the palmar surface of the hand. Reposition. Depression is taking this class in the summer, right? No, I'm sorry. Lowering a body part, you shuffle your shoulders, elevate your shoulders. There we go. Opposition and repositioning there. There we go. I like that. Elevating and then depressing her jaw. Okay, here's my favorite one, protraction and retraction. You said what about the test, right? When you do the chicken thing, people do like, y'all come on in. Like, you said, so what about my mama, you know, right? You know, my boyfriend or whatever, the chicken head thing, protraction is pushing it out and retraction is pulling it back. Look at this. Here's a couple of cool terms on the foot. I walk on I do inversion when I'm standing in class. For some reason, the bottom of my feet hurts. I just like to sit on the outside heel. That's inversion. And that does really probably tore my knee up probably too. And eversion would be leaning toward the inside of your feet toward the big toes and the little toes not touching the ground. So you got inversion and eversion. Okay. Then you got dorsal flexion is standing on the heels, and plantar flexion is pushing the toes down like the ballerina walk. So plantar flexion is really bad for the joints and for the knees and for the ankles. I love this one. Listen to this. Give somebody 5 is actually a supinate slapping a pronate. So supinate is forearms up like this. Pronate is down. So giving somebody 5 is a pronate hitting a supinate. Somebody had to name all this, right? Okay. And then we already talked about abduction and adduction. Okay. And so range of motion then is the amount of movement the joint is capable of under normal circumstances. Okay. All right, now we're going to roll into the different synovial joints, and there's about 7 or 8 we're going to look at, and we're going to pick a few to label on our test. Okay, and these are just different ways that joints work. The bones in the hand are called what's called, and they call them plane joints. Used to be called gliding joints, and these are just where the bones rub each other. So there's no angle decreasing anything, just the bones rubbing each other. And the one they're looking at here, some of the wrist bones, and very painful. If you break these, you may have to have a plate put in, right, or something. But gliding is just 2 bones, flat bones rubbing each other. The hinge joint, you have a convex articulated surface of one bone interacting with a concave depression of the second bone. And the classic example of this is the elbow. You have a convex head, and you have the concave ulna sitting like that. And we're going to look at that. We're going to name that. It's all electrodynamic process. We're going to see that in lab. Actually going to name that. We have a pivot joint. We have a bone with a bone pivoting on it. And this is the atlas and axis in the skull, in the vertebrae. So at your first vertebrae pivots on the second vertebrae. And you can see it here. The first vertebrae is called the atlas. And there's a knot on the second vertebrae called the axis, called the dens, formerly known as the dentoid process. And this top bone actually pivots on the second bone. So we got a little pivot thing going here. And we'll actually talk about that in lab, show that to you. Those are really good. That's something I might put on the lab file, like what bone is this? Atlas axis. So you're looking at that dens on the axis. And that's how your skull actually sets right here. The occipital condyles, we're going to be talking about in lab tomorrow, set right here. So when you do this, look, when you do your head like this, you actually pivot the head and the atlas, the first vertebrae, on that little knot, the dens. Pretty cool. So you're actually moving head and first vertebrae. Okay. Condylar or ellipsoid, where you have a convex and concave bones rubbing each other. And that's classic metacarpal phalange joint. So you have like a little Lego effect, a little snapping, concave, convex, like a saucer stacking the plates in the pantry, right? In the kitchen. They fit, right? They have a concave, convex end. Saddle, looks like somebody's butt sitting on a saddle around a horse. And we see this in the thumb and the trapezium. There's a saddle joint in the hand. And my favorite, the ball and socket, is the hip and shoulder. We have a ball and a socket. This is the glenoid cavity in the head of the humerus. We see it in the femur and the coccyx hip bone. Now check out this. This is in your book, but this is a cool little 2-page spread in your book about overall question about stability versus mobility. Okay, and I'm going to tell you right now, give y'all a little bit of a summer bonus here, that there is a bonus question referring to this page. Okay, so I'm going to ask a question on the test tomorrow about this 2-page table in your book. Even though it's going to be 2 slides on my PowerPoint, this is like page on the left. If you went and bought the $1 copy of the book, then this is a 2-page spread in the book. But take a look at it, and this is a great little review. And then what we do we'll take a quick break and come back after we look at this picture. And then we're going to look at like 3 major joints, right? Then we're done. We're going to look at like the hip, shoulder, and knee. Okay, and we're going to memorize some of those to label on our test tomorrow. Okay, which I do know is short notice, but and welcome to summer school. All right, but take a look at this. So if you look at this, is top left on the left page, we have the sutures, kyphosis, and syndesmosis, which is a great summary of what we've covered so far. These are the fibrous joints. These are the most stable but least mobile, right? Then as we go to the cartilaginous joints, epiphyseal plates, the synchondrosis and the symphysis, these are less stable but somewhat mobile, okay? Then when you go to the right page, look at this. Now we're looking at the right side of the page. The synovial joints, look here, plane, hinge, pivot, condylar, saddle, ball and socket. These are less stable but more mobile. And then you get down to these knees and hips, and these are extremely unstable with lots of pressure on them, lots of pressure on these. And this is where we see most of our tearing going on, right? In the hips, shoulders, etc. Okay, that's a pretty cool little picture in it. So in other words, and I'm going to ask a general question about it, but the punchline is what? Anytime you lose, you have more flexibility, then you have more what? Instability or instability, right? So when you look at something like the hip and the knee, man, that is unbelievable movement, right? And the hip and shoulder. And so you have a tremendous pressure there, thousands of square feet of energy exerted on our knees and hips, especially the hip and knee. Okay. What do you think? Y'all feel okay about that? All right, let's do this. Why don't we take a little break? It's a good little place to break, and we're gonna start and look at specific joints, and we'll look at the elbow. So once y'all take a quick bathroom break, I'm going to take roll of who I see on the screen. Okay, and I know we may have a couple of screens here. We got more people here, but let me just check, see how many I got here. Okay, y'all take a little 5-minute break. Take a break. Morning, morning, ladies. How y'all doing? I'm good. We're making it slowly. Tell you what, man, we just about. My guys are getting tired. Things goes fast. Summer school is fast. Thank you. They still on the second floor practicing today, or they get it all done?
They still on the second floor.
Yeah, I think Miss. Yeah, she came up here. I think supposed to come this morning to get a few things out of there that she needs to work up here some.
She went up on Thursday.
Okay, good. So she let them in. Okay, excellent. Thanks. All right, guys, y'all about ready to get back? We've been 5 minutes. I can't keep track of time. It's probably been maybe. We'll give everybody a second to get back. Okay, real quick. Let me check the roll. Kind of walk us through that. I know everybody's kind of dragging this morning. Got to get back in the swing of things. I got and she makes Molly. I got Molly Harris not in here. Anybody seen Molly? I don't see her. And I don't see Emma Ortman, and she may be popped in there. And y'all can still, you can miss two classes, guys, and still be okay, but you can't miss 3 right now. I know once again that we had a lot of y'all called the help desk, right? And they were like, oh, everything is all online. But we had this thing posted all over the place, right? That this is a what? Real, got to be online every day class, right? So y'all are under the rules of if you don't watch the videos, you're not here when I call roll. And someday I didn't call roll the first day because I got flustered because we were 25 minutes getting started, right? Because of the Canvas update. Excuse me, Zoom update that I wasn't aware of. Okay, but like I said, y'all, if you end up missing a class, your third absence, you really need to contact me and talk to me, and I can work out something if you show me if I find out if I can figure out a way that you did watch the video later, right? But just be aware that that we have an attendance policy in Northwest, and you can only miss 2 of these lectures. The third one would be an automatic withdrawal, and it used to be an automatic F, but now we don't withdraw. If you get withdrawn from a class, you get a W. Okay. Now, obviously, at this point, nobody was gonna get no money back, but you could have withdrawn the first week and got some of your money back. So everybody is in here for the finish now, unless you want to withdraw, and then you will get a W, which will not hurt your grade. You'll just have a W. But the deadline for that is probably, I think it's probably Friday, if not already this week sometime. So if you want to withdraw from a class because you're not making the grades you want, and you don't want that grade in your permanent record, then y'all need to withdraw this week. And on that, I would also like for you to talk to me before you withdraw from the class. I've had so many. There used to be a form y'all had to sign that I had to sign because nobody on this whole freaking campus knows your grade but me. Nobody else. And nobody else knows what I'm going to do to end the semester, right? So I know that I'm going to have some. I told y'all that I'm going to be nice on close to a D, but I had a young lady withdrew one time, had a B. She had like a 78, was very frustrated, and didn't speak to me. But if you go in and withdraw, it's too late. I can't do nothing to help you. But you should always ask the teacher what they think. But I'll be very clear. If you have not made a grade above 60, get out today. Okay? When I post this third test, if you have not made north of a 70 and you're trying to get a C, then I would say there is a 0 chance you're going to get a C, a very low probability to pull this up to a B or C if you have not made a C by the third test, right? That's just fair, right? But y'all welcome to talk to me after in between lab. Now, obviously, it would be better for me if you waited after that afternoon lab. I'll stay here to 8 o'clock at night talking to y'all. I'll do anything, but I'm in a hurry after the first lab because I got to get an IV before the second lab, okay? But, give me some food. But I don't think I've ever turned down anybody to talk to me. Have I? Has anybody come up to me that I didn't talk to you? I know one of us was going toward lab of the day, and I appreciate you telling me that, whoever that was. I didn't know that the darn time zone was messed up on that, and I'll fix it, okay? But watch that. Y'all need to be aware of that. If you're online homework, I think the mastering in the lab still has not been updated, and it's on Eastern Standard Time, which means if you get up to do it before class at 7 o'clock, then it was due at 7 o'clock, okay? That's what that means if you don't know your time zones. but I will try to, but then again, you need to be watching that. Ain't my problem, man. I try to set it up right. If I make an error, I'll fix it, but you don't need to wait the last minute to do stuff, guys. I'm sorry. Do not get in that habit in life. It will bite you. Okay. Anyway, but please, if some of y'all, I know we got a couple in here that maybe I haven't looked at the grades today. I'm just saying, I'm going to put these in. I'm going to look at them, but I'm not going to call any of y'all. We're adults here, right? I'm not going to call Megan, and I'm picking on Megan because I've known her whole life, and go, Megan, you need to get out. I don't think that's my call, right? But if Megan asked me, what do you think? I'm going to say, no, Megan, you're making an A or B right now. It looks like I wouldn't be getting it. Why would you get out of here, right? I mean, I'll be honest with y'all. We'll look at the stuff, right? But today we have a real good idea where your grade is with half the stuff in. And tomorrow we'll even have a better know Wednesday, because I'll get these graded. I'm going to work real hard tomorrow to get these up Wednesday, okay? So that y'all can have a good opportunity to see whether you need to withdraw or not, right? Because after this test tomorrow, we will have had 4 of our 6 tests, right? And by Friday, which I'll have to look up when the deadline of withdrawal is, I think it's one day this week. Then you could get on out of here if you need to. I don't want anybody to get a bad grade if they don't stay in here and expect me to. If you've set that at 60, you're not going to get a B. Okay, going into next week, not happening. I'm just saying, because we've already got 12 people with probably an A right now. But I'm not gonna go down that far. Now, could you get a C? Maybe if you. Well, I don't know. You do the math. There is a thing in the testing area called what if, right? So you can go to grade area and put 100 in for the final, and if you still ain't got a C, then it's probably time to get out, right? Everybody follow? But please email me, and I will call you. We can do a Zoom. Me and you can Zoom one-on-one. I'll set a Zoom up and we can talk. But don't just wait till call me. After 4th of July, it's too late. Okay, after next week, it's too late to do anything. Okay. Anybody know the deadline for withdrawal? I don't know. I'd have to look it up. I'm not sure what it is, but it's probably this week, if it ain't already passed. Okay. All right. Let's go. Let's finish this chapter up. Then we'll go back and talk about the test tomorrow. We'll go back and look at the other 2 that we kind of blew through. But I think really the chapter on the introduction to bones probably has more terms in it than the other one. All right. So, okay. Is everybody cool on the row? I had 2 not here. I think that's right. And I'm going to put that up. All right. Let's see if we can finish this up. And once again, now look, this last little part, I'm just telling y'all, is a lot. We're just going to kind of do a snapshot at a couple of these joints. We'll go ahead and show y'all this. Okay. So, but watch. There is the picture of the bones. It's going to fade in and out because of the camera. Hold on. Gotta love it. God, this is getting on my nerves already. Hang on. Should have done this during the other thing here. Let me figure this out. Change. Let's do this. Hang on. I hate this thing sometimes. Okay, that better. Okay, look. So it won't jump around. I've got the skeleton picture. Y'all know that's coming, right? And then I've got the knee. Everybody see that? The knee and the hip. Okay, so did everybody catch that? There are 3 diagrams on your test tomorrow. The 7th grade bones you learned in the 5th grade health. And then I've got about 10 parts of the knee. And I give you the other one as a reference, but I mainly did the diagram. They're the same, right? But I left the picture on there for your reference point. Then I've got both pictures of the hip. Okay. Now, guys, someday I'm probably gonna make out new tests this fall because of our new format. But I still think y'all need to know how to spell some stuff. Okay. And I can do spelling on online tests. That we're gonna have to do more online testing. But this is no word bank. You got to fill these out, and they're going to be. Let me see how much they count on the test. They're going to count about. Hang on. That's 30 points of the test tomorrow. So 30 points of the test is those 3 pictures, right? So there's about 10 points on each of those, right? If you do not learn the diagrams, you're not going to make an A or B on this test, right? It just ain't going to happen, right? So you got to know those diagrams. And that's what some of y'all didn't learn, the layers of the epithelium of the day, right? That I clearly said was on the tests. Did. Okay. And so 30 questions is those pictures. I've got 10 terms. That's 40 points. I've got 50 multiple choice questions written by the book company, right? Because that's what you're gonna get in nursing school, is those questions like y'all are used to seeing. So let's see here, 50 points, multiple choice, 10 terms, all of which I have gone over already. Mentioned in class every term. That's 60. And then let's see, 30 points of diagram is 90. So I've only got 3 short answer questions. They're like 3, 3, and 4. So you don't have as much short answer questions on this test. And then a 5-point bonus on the diagram we looked at earlier. I'm going to ask some specific questions about that page, you know, that had the stability questions, right? Everybody remember what we just stopped on, right? So the bonus is, I was trying to go back to my share my page. Hang on. I can stay. I can leave it on this. It's fine. Okay. Okay. So everybody, you know, I'm going back to our pictures here. Fine. Hold on. I love. Sorry, technology. That's not what I wanted. Hang on. All right. Did I cut it off? I hope I didn't cut it off. Did I? No, I didn't cut y'all off here. I got to go back and share page again. Hang on. Okay, looks like I may have accidentally cut off the PowerPoint. Hang on. Sorry. I love it. Hang on. I cut off our PowerPoint. Just 1 second. There we go. Can y'all see that now? Is it showing up?
Yeah.
I got it. Okay, hang on. Here we go. So I was backing up to this picture. Remember we looked at this? Oh, come on. Having trouble trying to get this PowerPoint to work, guys. Y'all bear with me. I'm just going to run it this way. Okay, y'all can see that, right? Okay, so remember we looked at this picture? So the bonus is off of that. Okay, you know, off that discussion of this table. Without the table, I'm not going to put it on this. So you need to know the bonus comes off of that. All right. Okay, does everybody feel pretty good now? We kind of had a, everybody with me now? So 50 questions, mainly off of, you know, test bank questions, right? Like we've been saying, a lot of the terms, 10 terms, some of which all of which we pretty much talked about, a lot of them from today. Okay, and then those 3 diagrams, right? The shoulder, knee, and the general bones from kindergarten, y'all learned in junior high. Okay, now what we're going to do to end the class here, the last 30 minutes or so, is we're going to look at these individual joints, right? Of the elbow, which I'm not going to make you label that on the test, but then of course the shoulder and the knee and the hip, right? Which one do we have on our test? One more time, make sure I got it right. So we got knee and hip. So knee and hip. Yep. All right. Now, guys, let me warn y'all one more thing too. Just try to be brutally honest with y'all. I know that we're halfway through, and when I give you a diagram and you know you got to memorize it, there is a high incidence of people trying to cheat to get a little bit more on this, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and warn y'all right now, straight up, that I have cameras in there. I'm turning the cameras on. You are being recorded as you take the test. And these are really good cameras. And we've already used them to throw people out of the class with an F. Okay, and I don't want to do that. So I ain't accusing. I hadn't seen anybody cheating yet, but I will. But I know when I have 3 rooms and I'm not in the room all the time, I will go back and watch the video of this. And don't let me catch you cheating. I will end, you will end your Northwest career real quick that way. Okay, not me. You. That's you. That's on you. So we can debate whether or not I should have a word bank or some other point. That's my call. But I'm not, did that Molly come in? I see Molly.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's okay. I know we haven't technical. Just making sure. Did Miss Edmond come in? Did anybody? I haven't seen her today. I don't think. Emma? Trying to call roll. And sometimes I forget to call roll because I'm an old man, right? So that's just a break for y'all, right? So if I don't call roll, guess what? Everybody's here, okay? So anyway, so some of y'all may have had some bonuses from that, but hey, it is what it is. All right, let's look at the elbow and we'll take a look at it. Now, notice that we're gonna have, it's a very stable hinge joint with 2 articulations and 3 strong ligaments that hold it all together. There's the humeral ulnar joint and then the humeral radial joint, okay? And here are the ligaments, a radial-collateral ligament, the ulnar-collateral ligament, and the annular ligament. And so really, this is just some really, and look, the title of the course is what? Human Anatomy and Physiology. Welcome to anatomy, okay? So here we go. So we're just gonna have to memorize some stuff. And like I said, and just label it, but we're not labeling this one, let's just kind of look at it. But look at this, it's kind of cool. This is looking at the front view, anterior view of the elbow. And you can see the, we got it circled here, the radial collateral ligament, the annular ligament right there around the front. And then the ulnar collateral ligament over here on the side. And look, here is articulating cartilage here and here. And we got synovial fluid in there, wrap it all up in God's duct tape. So that same trend, I mean, this is something over the years I've taught this. It's really important you see this, right? Articulating cartilage, synovial membrane in there with fluid, right? Articulating, and then wrap it all in duct tape. So all the joints are the same. All these synovial joints have that same thing going on. Actually, I may get them out, and we may get them out loud. Let you look at these if you want to. We ordered some plastic models of this. I'm not going to put it on loud final, but you can look at it. I've got some pretty cool joints. Sometimes I'm getting in trouble there. Sound like I've got selling you some joints, right? Okay, I've got some really cool human joints in lab plastic versions if you want to look at them. When I get them out, if y'all look at it. But I just think it's pretty hard to label that on a lab practical. Okay. All right, and the movement here is. Here we go. Woo-hoo. Come on, show it to me. It's supposed to be. There we go. So these are in the. This is in the PALS. Pretty cool. Now, another thing that just hit me here. I tell you what. As soon as we finish this chapter, before we dismiss class, there is another tool that really I need to show y'all that really you didn't need until today. But as we go into bones, one of the things we like about the Ammerman book and the McGraw-Hill is there is a product called PALS that y'all have to go through your lecture side to get to, but it's more of a lab thing. It is about $100 program that is all the bones, all the joints, and even the tissues they had tissues on it. I think I forgot to show it to y'all. I may have showed it to you in lab, probably didn't because I'm running crazy in summer school. But I'll show it to you real quick. It may help you as we go into bones specifically, and it has cat dissections and all the dissections. The brain is in here too. There's a brain, pretty good stuff on the brain. Okay, once again, I didn't get moved too dramatically by that picture, but you can see these, show these joints. Okay, let's go to the knee. The knee is going to have the patellar ligament, the tibiofemoral joint, and a patellofemoral joint. Okay, and then of course medial and lateral meniscus. Remember, we already defined that. Meniscus are those what? Shock absorber pieces of cartilage in the joints. And then there's a tibia collateral ligament also. And here is the picture on your test. And this is looking at the front view. And for some reason, they did not put a posterior view of the knee. Man, we did that in our lab book because that's very disturbing. We have a chapter on joints, obviously, in the chapter 8 in the lab book that we really don't do a lot in our lab at Northwest with, but we had to have it for other people like doing it. But I had to dig around to find a posterior view of the knee. There's just not one in there. I didn't label it here. So this is looking straight at the knee. Look here, lateral condyles. Here is the lateral meniscus. And here's a medial meniscus. So that's that cartilage that tears very easily. Okay, here's the fibula, tibia. There's the patella ligament. This patella ligament is where I'm tearing right here on mine. It's giving me pain right now. And then we've got the ones everybody breaks. We've got the anterior cruciate ligament that stabilizes, I believe, the up and down movement. And then the posterior cruciate ligament back behind it. These are the two that everybody breaks, and I think that maintains the left and right stability. Then you can also damage the fibular collateral ligament on the side. That's on the outside, and then the medial collateral ligament on the inside here, or the tibia collateral ligament here is on the inside. And I've seen those people running. These can swell up, can get very inflamed, can be very painful, right? And here's a real human cadaver photo of the knee, of the left knee. So this is the left knee, front view, and here is the right knee. What do you think? Pretty cool, right? One of the greatest moving parts of the body, all the tension and pressure put on it.
Will the sagittal section of the knee also be on the test?
Well, I mean, I just showed you. I mean, no, I just showed you that's the picture. That's the picture. That's it. So don't make too much into it, William. I showed y'all the test. Okay, that's it. Nothing else. That's your 3 pictures. Okay, look. Okay, one more time. Here, I know we got some great students that overstress. Here, here. That's it. That's all the pictures. And okay, is everybody cool? So I'm being totally brutally honest. Okay. Now hang on, I gotta show y'all something. I forgot I hate this. I'm gonna bring these to lab. I'm gonna show y'all these real quick. Hang on. We had to get that crap out of the way. You know, the waxers showed us, and we had all this stuff on the floors. You should have been moving down the 107. Look, I put this somewhere. We ordered $15,000 worth of stuff. Yeah, let me finish this up here real quick. Okay, take a look, guys. We really got equipment here. But I have a little. I had a friend, a student that went to work at one of the orthopedic places, and I'll let y'all see. I'll bring them to lab today if y'all want to, or for at least tomorrow for lab. But this is an artificial knee. Look at this. So when they did, and I'll let y'all hold them. This is probably $10,000 worth of equipment here. Okay. So what they would do is take the end of your femur and cut it off and jam this in it, and then cut the end of your tibia off and put that in it, and there's your new knee. Now I'll let y'all hold these. It's pretty cool, right? I've got a bunch of them, a bag full of them that one of my students brought me. These are ones that they messed up, got a little something wrong with it, and they had to throw them away. And no, I can't have this put in me, so I done tried. No, it's not sterile. It's not going to fit. But anyway, but is this not cool? So they cut the end of your bone off and put these in, and then look at this. It has little bubbles. This is titanium. It has little bubbles in it that I'll let y'all see, and your bone grows back into this. So this becomes part of your body. You're like the bionic person now, okay? All right, is that not cool? So to me, that's a knee one, and it works like this. If you're like on Mississippi Insurance, like I am, state of Mississippi Insurance, you get the Escort version. I'm talking about the Ford Escort version or the Taurus version. I'm thinking about some old cars. What's a standard car like the Honda Accord? But if you play, football for the Dallas Cowboys, you're gonna get I'm trying to think the really nice sport, that BMW version, right, or something. So they can actually make one for you, or you can get a generic one made for everybody. But if you got enough money, you can have one made for your actual leg as you normally stand. I mean, you can have one specifically made, or you can get just the Bubba one, the Oroy generic one. Okay. But anyways, isn't that pretty cool? And I've got a hip. I'll show you a hip in just a second too. Okay. Is everybody cool with that, William? Everybody got that? Everybody good? See that this picture? But isn't that kind of cool? And I'll get some knees out, and we're not going to do them in lab, but if y'all want to see a knee, I've got a really cool display that shows arthritis in the knee. And so I have these different knees that you bend over and look at them, the little models of knees, and you can see what arthritis does, okay? That one of the drug companies give me that makes rheumatoid arthritis medicine. So I've got some pretty cool body joints in lab we'll let y'all look at, okay? Okay, here's side view of the knee. Once again, this kind of gives you a little bit more perspective of what I showed you here. But look, articulating cartilage, meniscuses, right? Wrap it all up in duct tape. Bursa's in here too. Not sure. I honestly don't know what the purpose of the knee is, the knee bone, other than to protect this joint maybe. because when they do the knee replacement, they throw your patella away. So you don't have a knee bone anymore, okay? Which is just something that can tear and get in the way anyway. So I'm not sure, once again, not questioning God, but just not sure why we got the knee bone and all those ligaments holding it in place other than to maybe protect this joint a little bit. I'm not going to bore you with the knee movement since I had to run, get that out. But these are the very common ones. These are the things that people tear. The big three ligaments there, ACL, right? The big one here, the posterior cruciate ligament, and then you got the meniscus tear. Here is a very bad tear where this person broke a torn tibia collateral, the torn anterior cruciate, torn posterior cruciate, and the only one they got left is the other one on the outside, the fibula collateral. There was a football injury during one of the bowl games a couple years ago where the kid broke every ligament in the knee. I mean, literally could have torn off with just a little bit of a pocket knife. The only thing holding it together was just loose tissue. It took him almost 2 or 3 years to heal. I think the Cowboys picked this guy in like the 3rd, 4th round, and he finally now is starting to play linebacker a little bit, but I don't think he's ever going to be what he was his senior year, which is sad. Okay. Once again, what do you do with an injury? Most of them are going to have to involve surgical repairing, right? You've seen the basketball players put ice on their knees after a ball game. There's a lot of thoughts that helps a little bit. And then after you have the surgery, you have to have physical therapy and rehabilitation. About 15 years ago, my mother had double knee replacement. And so she had them both done at the same time. A surgeon did one, a whole surgical team did her right knee, then they all high-fived, and another surgical team came in and did the left knee. To this day, she says her right knee is stable, I mean, like really good, but the left knee feels like a tire with a couple of lug nuts off. She got a little wobble in it. So, and there's no bolt in here. You understand? Look, I was not clear about this. There's no bolt in this joint I was showing y'all. It is actually using your ligaments and tendons to hold it in place. So all we're doing is replacing. Look, I can't believe somebody had made a freaking one with like a door hinge, right? Where it will not break. You know what I'm thinking? But and all these hip and knee replacements and shoulders, they use your ligaments and tendons to stabilize that joint. We're just replacing the ends of the bones. The cartilage is being replaced with plastic. And that plastic can be replaced. But there's a pretty cool showing the MRI of that damage on that one, an anterior MRI and a sagittal, and you can see the tear. That's pretty wild. Okay, and the shoulder. Here's the shoulder one. Once again, you see that subacromial bursa that pops out of that student of mine. You can see the knobs up here. The acromion and coracoid process is where some of the ligaments and the tendons attach. Now, we haven't learned these bone parts, but we're going to do that this week. We're going to be working on bones. So some of these words will pop up to you. We're going to see them in lab. And it's very, very, and it obviously this starts to make a lot more sense. Okay. But we didn't have to know this one today. We didn't put this one on the test, but this is the shoulder. And you can just see the same concept here. There's the actual articulating cartilage, right? There's a synovial membrane in there, and then wrap it all up in these ligaments. Right? The big one here is the glenohumeral ligament. There's a coracohumeral ligament there. Here's a subscapular muscle cut. That's the tendon of the muscle cut. There's that tendon sheath, right? We talked about. Once again, we're not going to label that one because we did the hip and knee, I think is what we said. Yeah. I'm trying to see if and there it is. There's a frontal section of it showing it. Once again, you get that same thing we saw in the knee. And here is a cadaver of the shoulder. Okay, pretty cool. Tommy John surgery, right? Real famous surgery in a lot of athletes where they tear that tendon and have to have it surgically reattached. Has anybody seen the Disney movie about the coach that was the coach out in Texas, right? He tore this in college as a pitcher, and he never pitched again until he was throwing to his batters in Texas. Like this is like he's like 35 years old, and these kids can't hit him, and he's like, I hadn't pitched in 10 years. And they get a gun out, he's throwing about 102, 103 mile an hour. And so they have a tryout. He tries out. He ends up going to play for the Texas Rangers for about 6-7 year career. And he ended up signing several $2 or $3 million contracts. And so his tummy stone surgery not only healed, but it made him even better. And that's a pretty cool little story about basically the kid said, if we win our state championship, will you try out for the major leagues? And that inspired them to make it to the state playoffs. And so then when he tried out, he made Major League Baseball and ended up being a relief pitcher. Pretty cool. Little fun side note, I'm a big sports fan, but I have a nephew that is going to be a trainer, and he was a trainer for the Mississippi State baseball team this year and last year. And his best friend that he met at Starkville was the second baseman for the Mississippi State, and he was drafted last Thursday on the 14th pick of the draft. And he asked my nephew to ride with him to the draft thing where he signed a bonus check for he got I think it was a $5 million bonus check, signing bonus. So they had a nice time that night. He sat with his mother during the draft or whatever. Okay, pretty cool. But anyway, is that not crazy? So get some people, now I wish it had been my first coach, had been my nephew, but at least my nephew's friend's doing well, right? But I am a big fan of sports, and so that's the one that we can really do a lot of work on. Okay, the hip, and then of course dislocated shoulder, really bad, and it pops out of that socket, right? And if it's separated, you may have to have surgery to fix it, right? Okay, then the hip is a super cool one here, and we do need to know this in our iliofemoral, ischiofemoral, pubofemoral ligaments. Okay, now I'm going to pull out, I've got this one too. So check this out. So they put this into the acetabulum. That goes into the bone. And this is put down your femur, and they make a new socket. So this is coxal bone, and this is the hip bone. And look at that movement. And then they can replace that plastic after 15 years. Okay, so that slips down the femur shaft. Okay, look at your picture right there on the left, like right here. Where I've got the pointer, this replaces that in the coccyx, and then the hip is the femur. So they cut your femur off like right down here and put this in. Is that not cool? I'll let y'all see that in lab, and I'll just make sure. And even those of y'all, and I will make sure that Philip shows it too, because that's something I take to class that I would pass around now while I'm talking about this to make it more interesting. Okay. And once again, this is the picture we got to label, right? Yep, I'm double checking. This is the picture. So you will label some of this picture, and not all of them, but the ones I number, right? And look, once again, look, articulating cartilage, articular membrane, synovial fluid, rapid and duct tape. I will show you something weird here. This is a weird one right here. Look at this. If I can see it. Yeah, here we go. This ligament head, the femur, doesn't really do a lot to hold the femur in, but it actually provides food and nourishment for the head of the femur. And one of my favorite little sad story here. How many of y'all? I know how many of y'all saw the Michael Jordan 10-part documentary right over on ESPN last month? Really fascinating. But Michael Jordan, obviously is one of the richest men in America, at least one of the richest athletes too. He made millions and billions in the Nike. He was their second spokesperson. Does anybody know who their first spokesperson is? Anybody? Very famous football player named Bo Jackson. He won a Heisman Trophy at Auburn. And he played baseball and running back for Auburn. He was one of the greatest athletes of the last 25 years, of this last 50 years of sports. But he ran track and field too. He's one of the fastest men on earth. He gets to the NFL. Actually, he goes to baseball and starts for the Chicago White Sox. And in the offseason, he decided to play NFL. So he signed with I think it was the Oakland Raiders. And on a Monday Night Football game that I was watching live, they do a pitch out, and he's got a touchdown, but some secondary guy has an angle, and he grabs him, and he misses the angle and grabs him by the foot. As Bo Jackson runs by, he pulls the hip socket out. And that scene in Jerry Maguire, where the whole audience gets quiet and everybody looks to see, and that boy jumps up, that's a ripoff on this scene of Bo Jackson. Because the whole world was watching Monday Night Football, and everybody did a collective, and he jumps up, and I remember him looking at the TV going, "Mama, I'm okay." Well, he wasn't. He wasn't okay. He didn't play the rest of that game, but he tore that ligament, and the next day they did an MRI or X-ray, and they thought it was okay. And about a week later, they found out that he killed his femur, and he had to have a hip replacement at the age of 27. So the world's greatest athlete, his commercials were Bo Knows Sports. because Bo knows baseball, Bo knows track and field, Bo knows football, Bo knows everything. Michael Jordan was in the 8th grade watching those commercials. He had to have hip replacement. They told him if he got tackled again playing football, he'd be paralyzed possibly. He went back and made it back and played center field for the Chicago White Sox for a couple of years until he slid into second and broke that hip replacement. And he got the best money could buy. You know, he had to have another surgery and he had to retire. And it's kind of a sad story because I think he would have went down as one of the greatest athletes of all times. I did go on a fishing trip one time on a boat out of Panama City, or Destin, I think it's Destin, and it had a picture of Bo on there. And I asked the boat owner, you know, the pilot, I said, "Who? That's Bo Jackson." And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Bo rents this boat like 5 times a year, takes all his friends fishing." He said, "Bo's okay. Bo's fine. Bo got a lot of stock in a little company called Nike. Okay, Bo's okay." And Bo had insurance on his knees too. So these athletes can't insure themselves. But anyway, but it just hates that he couldn't reach his potential with that, right? My best friend was in a car wreck and broke his hip, had to have hip replacement at 28, like Bo Jackson. About 10, 15 years ago, we were getting ready to go to a concert, and he called me. He fell at work, and this thing broke out. Basically, what happened, the plastic broke. So this was laying out, very painful. So he rolled around it, popped back in, but all this is broke. So it's loosey-goosey. So it's me and some other guys, including the doctor. So we get him morphine and a parking pass for handicap, and we went on over to Atlanta to the concert and kept him medicated all weekend. He had to have that plastic bushing replaced. And I used to have it in my office. He let me have it to show it, but it just broke this plastic after 20 years. Yeah, he was 44, and he got that at 25, so he had had 20 years. And so they replaced this stainless steel bearing here, titanium head, and a new one, but he still won't get a handicap parking sticker, which I think he should, because he will wear this joint out eventually. He cannot ski, he cannot go snow skiing, he can't water ski. He's got a lot of things he can't do, but he's on his second plastic bushing, which they told him should be good for another 25, 30 years. Okay, pretty wild. So now you don't have to know that I did this one, I believe, on the test, right? Let me double check. Yep, so I used this picture, not the cadaver picture, and because there's a little bit more labeling on the other one. Once again, y'all can watch the BioFlex. I'm not going to bore you with that part of that. Hip replacement, they're going to show you that. There it is. There's what I've showed y'all. I've got that in lab, but that's pretty cool to me. You can do total and partial. But here is the one my friend has and the one Bo Jackson had, where they replaced this socket is called the acetabulum, and then the head of the femur is cut off, and they put a titanium rod down in that then attaches to this. I went to not this summer, but last June, I went to a conference in Portland, Oregon, and I saw a speech where a lady really blew my mind about a lot of people have these put in and their body rejects them. And she was showing a correlation between rejection of these implants and the bacteria in your colon, which is like pretty bizarre, right? It'd be like saying that heart attacks have to do with what kind of bacteria live in your mouth or something, which is true. There are bacteria in the mouth, and when people have dental surgery, go down and cause bowel problems. So here is a link between the bacterium in our colon. Thus, our colon health can affect whether or not your body will reject an implant or not. And so she actually did some really, I think, kind of mean surgery where she took rats and put fake knees in them. Didn't need replacement in rats, but non-functional, but put pieces of titanium and plastic in their body. And she was following the plastic going through their body as their body tried to break it down, and that was affecting the colon bacterium. My best friend, the doctor I talk about in here a lot, he's been taking the probiotics now for about 15 years. But he likes to buy the ones you get at the drugstore, you know, by the ice cream. I'll grab the ice cream. He grabs the probiotics. And these are that's probably why I have probably health problems. But putting the right bacterium in your body can't have an effect on whether or not you accept or reject one of these implants. And on this hip one, you can only replace this femur one time. So when my buddy broke his, they were worried if this broke down here that he would be able to have one more put in than a wheelchair. So this is a one time, you can fix it. You can put it in once and you can replace it once. His was not damaged, so they didn't have to replace the bone, the rod down the bone. Isn't that pretty crazy? Pretty wild. Okay. and he missed his surgery just to replace that bushing was like $80,000, and he missed 2 months of work. Now, unless you got a good job like me, or or other good jobs, you just can't take 2 months off. My daddy could not take 2 months off on the farm, right? We'd be losing the farm, right? So hopefully you get a good job with good health insurance, because he did. He worked for a big company in Memphis. All right, that's all I got on that. Pretty easy chapter, pretty laid back chapter. Nothing too awful hard to see. Okay. Any questions about? I think we pretty much. I mean, we can go back. Let me pull up chapter. Let me somebody pull up chapter 7 real quick. They seem to be. I know William. I think a couple of y'all had a concern about that. Let me make it clear that you don't have to know anything that's not that I didn't tell you, right? I think I've been brutally honest, right? At least I try to be. But we all get in a hurry in the summer. I'm trying to get it opened up here. Give me a second. All right, hang on. I love this technology, but sometimes it just wants to act weird. I got to stop sharing. Hang on. Pull up another one. I think 7 what had y'all concerned, right? Yeah, here we go. Let me get share mode back here. Hang on. I'm gonna figure this out someday. All right, share screen. Here we go. Now we got it. Did I see it? Okay. Okay, so when you get down to, I think terminology here, these terms are the main thing, but when you get into the skull here, don't worry about it. I'm not going to have any label. There's no pictures. I had already showed you, right? So the only picture was what? The very first one, right? That. Okay. Now we're going to spend all week in your lab final next Thursday is going to have what? All kind of parts off the skulls and stuff, right? So the only thing in here I might ask, what is a sinus? What's a fontanelle? But I'm not going to make you label any pictures. So do not spend hours going through this. And what I'm going to do here, guys, I'm going to pull up my lab book. I'm going to take some pictures of my lab book, because I've got my lab book labeled on what parts you can eliminate. Because our lab test tomorrow is going to be what? The front of the skull, the side of the skull, the bottom of the skull, and the inside of the skull, right? I'm going to mark some of them off. I'm going to take a picture of those 4 pictures. And if I've marked an X through it, that means, or circled it, don't worry about it. Okay. And so I'm just going to put them up as a PDF in a little while this afternoon, so y'all can see that. That's the easiest way I could do it, because I'd like to have done that in person, but we had the test last time, right? Okay. And we are going to go over the lab midterm tomorrow in lab 2. So but here's the paradigm shift. Okay. Listen. If you're in my lab, this quiz is going to be at the beginning of lab. We're not going to spend the day, we're not going to spend an hour practicing learning it. We're going to do it, start the class off. So I want you to know the skull at the beginning of lab, okay? Best you can. And that'll be the hardest one we're going to have, right? Because the other part's a little bit easier. So we'll have a couple of quizzes on skull and bones for the next couple of lab quizzes. And they'll be at the beginning of lab, okay? But the rest of it, but you don't need to know any of these details, right? Because I told you we wouldn't. So don't worry about diagrams, anything else, but maybe fontanelle, maybe, trying to think here, maybe, just be aware of like scoliosis. That could have, those are terms. We could see something like that. I thought, I think the difference between male and female skeletons is interesting. There maybe is a question about that, right? Right? Can you tell the sex of a skeleton, right? Right? And you can, right? But for the hip bones and even the skull, right? There's a thing in here about the skull markings, right? Which I thought was pretty wild. Okay. But nothing, no diagrams, right? All right. Any questions? So we don't worry about all these pictures. We may have a general question, but not any labeling. Okay. All right. Anybody else? I'm trying to be very transparent with you guys. That's the way I always roll. But summer school is really fast, right? Any questions before we call it today? And ask it for everybody, because it may be something somebody else needs. Olivia, you have a question?
Is the test still at 9 a.m. tomorrow?
Yeah, we do our stands. Okay, that's what I'm not changing anything. We'll just still do 9 o'clock down here in our 3 rooms. I have 3. I'm going to actually go get another camera to other rooms. The camera wasn't working right of the day, but I'm going to leave them on, and I will, and look, and I'm just saying, because when I do diagrams, it's just the temptation to cheat is much higher, I think, right? And I will tell you how this rolls, okay? don't do it, because I guarantee you somebody in that room is going to tell me, hey, you better go look at Bubba on the camera. And then all I got to do is just call you up and give you an F for the course, because I have virtual proof of that, right? So just do your own work. I'm going to be fair, but do your own work. I mean, there's just a temptation to do that, right? And that's just human nature. Okay, so please, let's don't do that. I don't want to have an incident this summer, but I don't back away from trouble either. So you want to pull your book out, watch yourself fail. I believe in America, you have a right to fail if you want to fail, right? That's how you do it. Okay, because you don't need to be in nursing school if you're going to cheat. Okay, because then you're going to kill somebody. Okay, if you get through nursing school. Okay, so we're not going to play around on that. I'm not accusing anybody anything. I'm just saying, let's don't do something stupid this summer. Okay. Any questions about anything else there? So 9 o'clock is okay with everybody? Did I give y'all an hour and a half? And actually, give me 30 minutes for our labs at 11. So that should be plenty of time to knock out the test at 9. That's 2 hours for lab for 11 o'clock. Okay, so test tomorrow. And I'm sorry, it's just fast. Yeah, I mean, and like I said, you don't like the way I do it, man. I'm sorry. I told you up front what we was going to do, right? First day, I showed you we're going to have 6 tests, right? And believe me, I'd rather break it down into these increments like this, because I do think this is not too bad if you just learn the pictures I told you to. I know several people who really tore up the test the other day should make another A on this one, because it's not that bad, really. I got spell gun focus. That's matching, right? Multiple choice. So you got spell something, but you do need to be able to spell the diagrams. Okay, anybody else? Hey, I've enjoyed you guys.
Question about chapter 6.
Ma'am?
I had a question about chapter 6. So I remember you saying something about the intramembranous and the endochondral ossification.
That's one of the short answer questions.
Okay, I was just making sure. I just wanted to make sure I studied that.
I think it is. Let me see. I do change things up occasionally, but I think that is something I wanted you to know. Yes, that's one of the short answer questions. So 1 down, 2 to go, Heather. Now, if I was taking this class, I'd get in a small group this afternoon and figure out the other 2. You know what I'm saying? That's what my buddies do. We would try to figure out the short answer question. Actually, probably one of my favorite classes that I ever had was a physiology class, and it was the book was about as big as this one, and we had a midterm and a final, and it was all short answer. Okay, and discussion. And so for the midterm, we studied, and we had 100 questions that could come up, and we memorized them all, and we had all. And he knew. We told him we studied together, so I don't ever question if y'all have the exact same wording, because I know you didn't cheat, because I'm watching where y'all sitting. You know what I'm saying? Because it's okay to have the same answer if y'all got it. Y'all answered it together in a study group. And I made a 91 on the midterm. So we come in for the final, and we had another 100 sheets of paper that we all memorized. We come up with 100 questions, or maybe not that many, but 60 or 70. And let me tell you about this. This is my story in A&P 2, but I don't have y'all next month. So we go in to take the final, and listen to this. Here's the final. This is a short. It's one question final. You're laying in the bed. The alarm goes off. You get up. You get dressed. You go downstairs. You eat a breakfast of 2 bacon, 2 eggs, 2 cups of coffee, some juice. You grab your keys and you come to school. Describe all physiological phenomena that happened in your body this morning. You have 3 hours. William, I literally tasted breakfast. He had 400. He had nothing. He had like 1,000 pieces of lined paper, and that was the test. You grab that, and I literally, people were scrambling. I sat like this for 15 minutes. Then I wrote like 42 pages. I knew his son said that he laid it out. He took them all home. And first of all, if you wrote 40 pages, you were in a big stack. If you wrote 2, he graded you real quick, you failed, right? So you had to have mass. I think he even weighed them. But he read them all, and he marked them up, and he gave them back to us. And I made an A in that class. I'm real proud of that class grade. Okay. Okay. I like that short answer question. And my handwriting is as bad as some of y'all's, right? So I think he was using a little bit of the magic lens on some of it, right? But I really do like when I read what y'all write, because I knew that some of y'all understand something, right? I think there's a lot to be said about that. And in this modern technology, we're losing that teaching method, right? Everybody's doing Scantron and multiple choice. But really, I can ask you why we breathe, which is something I ask in A&P 2. And if you can't tell me why we breathe, I really don't think you need to be in the nursing building. Okay? If you can't tell me why we breathe, then not now. We haven't covered it yet. But I guarantee you, there's people in this room that can tell me protein synthesis, and I appreciate that. Y'all killed that, man. Y'all killed that, right? And y'all will learn. Y'all know that for the rest of your life. Some of y'all. But anyway, just a foam in there. But that. So anyway, sorry, I regress. Anybody else? Another question? That's a true story. And so in A&P 2, if you took me for digestion, I give you a meal, and you got to tell me everything happens going through the body on the meal. As my tip my hat to my former teacher. So I do a mini. I don't make you do all the other, but I do make you tell me what happens to all the food as it goes through. That test definitely changed my life. I was like, whoa, 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 okay, whoa. And Ole Miss, they have 3-hour finals. All right, anybody else? Any other questions, guys? Okay, look. I'm going to try to put on my cheerleader suit here for a minute. Now, look, here's where we at. Half of the material still to be done. I think this test tomorrow, y'all seem to, this is not that bad, right? It's just words you haven't seen before, right? But this is not protein synthesis. This is way easier than histology epithelium, right? This is way easier than trying to identify epithelium, right? Okay, so y'all can do this. And then tomorrow, the next test is going to be on muscles. So we got 3 chapters on muscle, actually 2 chapters on muscle. And then we have a test on muscles, which will be a little bit more anatomy and a physiology question, like a 20-point question or 15, 20-point question on how muscles contract and relax. And then that test will be Thursday. Is that right? Friday. So Friday, we'll come in Friday and just take a test. And that seems to be pretty fun, right? Just take a test Friday, right? And then we'll just have the final next Thursday. Okay. All right, guys. I'll see y'all in the morning at 9 o'clock. Yes, ma'am, Mrs.
Okay,
Brown.
quick question. So we need to focus on the knee diagram, we need to focus on the one that we saw in chapter 8.
Yes,
and
that's
then,
it.
And for the hip, the one in chapter 8 as well?
Yeah, but it was the one that didn't have the cadaver, right?
Okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know why I did that, Simone. That was just me in a hurry, but I didn't do the knee. I just noticed the knee is the cadaver and the nut, right next to it, that page. But the hip was this one.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
That's okay. No, and then look, then that. And I
yeah.
didn't label cadaver, but it's the mirror image, so it might help you. You know, just to have that picture as a reference.
So is this test on 6, 7, and 8?
Yes.
Okay.
But not a lot of what? 7, because we're going to do most of 7 in lab, right? Starting tomorrow. Okay. All right. All right. I don't know. I'm gonna think about this lab test tomorrow, because that is actually really, I just realized that we have a lecture test tomorrow with the hardest lab test of the whole summer, the skull. So I don't know. We may do something else on it. I'm going to sleep on that, or not sleep on it. I'm going to meditate, and we may just, I don't know. We may just wait and have that test on Wednesday on the skull, because that's so important. Okay, really important. I might just do one skull picture. I think I will. I may make a summer school rule and just do one skull picture. Y'all can do that after the test, right? Y'all can go study that, memorize that for lab. Okay, because we got to get the verbiage in, or y'all going to get so far behind. You guys, I hate doing it like this, but I have no choice. Y'all signed up for it. I'm getting paid to do it. We're going to cover it, right? It is way too fast in summer. And that's hopefully none of y'all are working, but I know some of y'all are. Okay, but I may go back and modify that test. Let me think on it. I'll post something for my lab in a little while for the test tomorrow. Maybe just go with the inside the skull, maybe. One of the evil pictures, but just one picture. Cut it down to one. Thank you, Ms. Brownlee, for bringing that. Your question actually made me think about that, so thank you, Simone. Anybody else? All right. Y'all may leave, and we got to call it. If you have a question, hey, Mr. Toole, won't you hang on a minute? Let's holler, because I know we got to get your makeup in, okay? Just hang on. And I started to say we could have done it today, but I figured you, I don't know if you wanted to mess with it today. Anybody else got a question? Anybody else? All right. Good class today. Thank y'all for paying attention. Y'all can head on, go study. Make an A tomorrow. All right. Anybody else? Everybody good?
Will the recording of Friday's lecture and this lecture be up on YouTube by the end of the day?
Yeah, I'm gonna as soon as I stop it right now, it's starting to process this one. But let me stop. Actually, that's a good point. Let me stop.